It involved carjacking and kidnapping. The victim was raped 3 times, twice by you, and you had taken her to another individual, and that other individual also raped her. Uh, Shot her in the back, I think 2 times, and left dead. But fortunately, she didn't die.
And you heard right. He was just 16 years old when he did that, and his co-defendant was 14. Now, this is a classic Miss Jackson hearing, and of course, we have Carrie Myers up against Randall Myers. Let's jump in, and I'll unpack it with some details of his appeal at the end.
So, you are Allan R. Your DOC number is 461092. You're classified as a first felony offender, currently serving a 50-year sentence. You have sentencing date in Jefferson, November 7, 2002. It's an attempted second-degree murder, a 50-year sentence. At July 2003, sentencing in Orleans Parish for forcible rape, second-degree kidnapping, and attempted armed robbery. You received a total of 49.5 years on those sentences. Parole eligibility date is October 14, 2022. Good time date is October 13, 2047. Full term, May 28, 2049. Is all that information correct, Mr. Reed?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, Jimmy Jackson's question.
All right, good morning, Mr. Rie. My name is Bonnie Jackson. Your case has been assigned to me. I've reviewed it. However, I'm having difficulty opening up, getting your file to open up. So I'll have to just proceed from the notes that I have. You're 42 years old. Is that
41,
correct?
ma'am. 41.
When will you make 42?
Today is my birthday. I'll make 42 this day next year.
Oh, okay, so to make 40. Okay, well, happy birthday to you, Mr. Rie.
Thank you.
All right. How long have you actually been incarcerated in this case?
Since August 9th, 1997.
How many years?
24 years and 8 months.
And how old were you when this crime was committed?
16.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, 16 is pretty young to find yourself involved in this kind of crime. So what was going on with you when you were 16 years old that caused you to commit this kind of crime?
Hanging with the wrong people, not having
Time.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Just hanging. Hanging with the wrong people, not having the direction that I needed, and not really having somebody that I can look up to, for guidance and advice, and looking for that in the wrong places.
Who did you live with?
I was back and forth with my mama and my grandmother.
And why were you back and forth?
Um, my mother had things that was going on in her life, and that my grandmother felt like, it wasn't fit for me to, to live with her at the time. So I will go
Your
back
mother,
and forth. I will go
your
back
mother,
and forth.
fourth in the two households. Was your mother a drug user?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
What kind of did your mom use, if you know?
Excuse me.
What kind of drugs did your mom use?
Crack cocaine.
What about you? Tell me about your drug use back then.
I had any. I didn't have any.
Okay, so when this happened, you weren't using any kind of drugs at all?
No, ma'am.
Did you use alcohol?
I've probably drunk maybe twice in my entire life.
Wasn't alcohol involved in this item? So
No,
you
ma'am.
didn't have any substance abuse issues back then?
No, ma'am.
Were you ever charged with anything as a juvenile?
Like, yeah, I've been arrested as a juvenile. I have other arrests as a juvenile.
Were you ever sent to a juvenile facility?
Only overnight. That was it. I've never did like juvenile time.
How far did you go in school?
To the 11th grade.
And what happened is that when you got arrested, when you were in the 11th grade?
Yes, ma'am.
I guess I'm having difficulty understanding. I mean, this was a really bad crime,
Yes, ma'am.
bad crime. And from my reading of the police report, it involved carjacking and a kidnapping. The victim was raped 3 times, twice by you. And you had taken her to another individual, and that other individual also raped her. Uh, Shot her in the back, I think 2 times, and left dead. But fortunately, she didn't die. And I don't understand what would have precipitated. And when you encountered her, you were by yourself. There was nobody else but you and the gun. Talk about being with the wrong crowd, but on this instance, when you contact this victim, it was just you. So can you help us understand how it is that a 16-year-old teenager could commit such a violent, terrible crime?
It's it's so hard to explain for a teenager, to have that type of mind frame. I mean, if I could go back to that day, I would never ever, do anything like that again in my life. And it's just hard for me to explain, what was going through my mind at that time, to make me commit such an act. And it's unexcusable in every, in every form.
I'm glad to acknowledge your guilt and accept responsibility for it. I'm glad to see that. And obviously, the crime impacted you. Uh, there's also someone on the other side of the case, and it impacted her even more so. You understand that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk about what you've done over the last almost 25 years of incarceration. I show that you've had about 39 write-ups. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the last year's been in 2017.
Yes, ma'am.
And I see that that was an aggravated work offense. Is that
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
What happened? How did you get written up for that?
I had just received a new job from the major at that time, but I hadn't went through classification to get it verified, and they called us to work that morning, and I was on my way to the major's office, but just so happened that day he wasn't there. So by the time I made it back down to the dorm, the line had went out, and the captain that was checking the line out, uh, he asked me my name, and I told him what my name was, and he found it on the roster, and he said, "Well, you didn't report to the gate." And I told him that major, I forgot the major name, but I told him that the major had just assigned me a new job. So he said, well, he still had to write me up because I didn't report to the gate. Even though that I was assigned a new job, I still didn't report to the gate. So that was what happened with that.
What kind of punishment did you get for that?
I can't remember. I can't remember. I think store restriction. If 12 weeks lost of canteen.
Okay. Do you have a job? First of all, how long have you been out where you are right now?
How long have I been here? Since 2017, November of 2017.
So what's your job there?
Currently I'm a dorm orderly.
And where did you spend most of your incarceration?
Where have I spent most of my incarceration? In Angola.
All right. And what was your job in Angola?
I had multiple jobs. My last job was a barber. I've had 3 barber jobs. I worked at the treatment center on 2 different occasions. And I've also worked as a dorm orderly there too at one time, if I'm not mistaken.
I see that you got your GED and Raymond Laborde in 2018. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you got a certification in as a repair technician. Is that automotive repair?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And you got an OSHA card in 2019. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I see that you've done a lot of faith-based programs, but I'm not seeing a lot of other kinds of programs. I do show that in 2019, you completed anger management. Have you taken any other programs besides anger management? I see you took victim awareness in 2011, and you have a CPR certification. But have you taken any other kinds of programs like, living in balance, thinking for a change?
Yeah. I'm currently in thinking for a change. I haven't taken living in balance yet.
What about sex offender treatment? I didn't see any indication of
I
sex
was
offender.
just I've just been made aware of a sex offense class about 2 weeks ago. I wasn't aware at all about any up until that point.
Nobody at the commission noticed that you had a goal or wherever you started off, noticed that you had a rape and nobody told you you needed to take sex offender treatment?
No, ma'am. Not a single soul.
Well, you do understand that that's an absolute minimum requirement that you complete all 4 phases of sex offender treatment before you can even be considered for parole. Okay. I see that you're a Strive member, which is good. I don't know what Made Men Gavel Club is, but I've seen you've done that. And as I said, you've done a number of faith-based programs and you've taken some vocational skills, and all of those things are good. And I commend you for having done that work. And even though you've had 39 write-ups over the course of 24 years, and I do acknowledge that when you went in at 16, you probably had some adjustment issues that might have accounted for some of the write-ups. Warren, what can you tell us about Mr. Rea?
Well, since he's been here, like you're saying, he hasn't really had any conduct at all. He's been a pretty good offender. He's taken some programs. We talked yesterday in regards to the sex offender treatment, that he does need to get into that. He is on the backlog. He's been on the backlog for a little bit. The Made Men you were talking about, that's basically our version of the Toastmasters. So that's kind of our version here at the prison. So he has taken some good classes. I mean, like you stated earlier, we did suggest that maybe he sign up for the new victim awareness class that is being implemented come the 15th and take that again. But other than that, I mean, he hasn't really been any issues. I mean, like you say, looking at his conduct from the beginning, he was kind of having a little adjustment, it seemed like. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much for it. Renata, that's all I have.
Thank you. All right, this time we'll hear from those who are here in support, and we'd like to hear from the Parole Project. Mr. Myers.
Yes, good morning. Terry Myers, Louisiana Parole Project. We've been working with Mr. Rie for some time now, recognizing that he was 16 years old when this crime was committed, recognizing his family situation and the instability that he had in his life. As you can see from his record and the comments of the warden, he has worked on programming. But one of the things I might ask this board this morning would be to consider either conditionally granting him parole based on completion or deferring action, at least at this time, on completion of the sex offender treatment program. I believe that the board's conditional grant would certainly move him up on the list to take this program. And so Parole Project will continue to support him, whatever this board's decision might be.
Thank you. Ms. Turner, Sharon Turner, sister.
I apologize. I would like to say that my brother has changed tremendously over the years. I was, I believe, 9 years old when he was first incarcerated, and the person I knew then versus the man I know now, he has changed. I feel as though that he has learned his lesson. He would never ever do something like that ever again. And I feel as though he's done an entire 360 on his life, for as making himself a better person, a better man, and a better human. I feel like everybody deserves a second chance. He was 16 years old at the time of the crime. He's now 41.
Yes, ma'am. We appreciate you. We appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. Can we hear from Ms. Holden?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. I've been in Anna life for Mr. Rie life for 22 years, and from the guy that I met then to the man that I know now, he has grown a whole lot. He's very mature, very intelligent. I mean, you wouldn't even the person that's sitting before you, you wouldn't even think that he would have committed such a crime due to his behavior and the way that he acts now is the man that he is. You know, and I do feel to believe that he deserved a second chance. That was something that he did when he was young with no guidance. And now, you know, he's learned his lesson from what he has done. And to know that person for 22 years, I'm standing behind him for sure, knowing that he'll never commit that crime again.
So thank you very much for your comment.
We'll hear from the DA's office, Mr. Meyer.
Good morning, Randy Meyer, Assistant DA in Jefferson Parish. We strongly oppose Mr. Ray's application at this time. He pled guilty to some very heinous crimes, had to take a very significant toll on his victim. He pled guilty and agreed to a 50-year sentence without benefit of parole. Well, let's look at what he's been doing since incarcerated. He hadn't slowed up on his disciplinary reports. In fact, they seem to have gotten a little worse up until 2017. In 2017, he had 4 aggravated work offenses. He had an aggravated disobedience, and he had an aggravated sex offense. He hadn't taken any sex offender treatment, which I think both having the sex offender treatment as well as having sex offenses as disciplinary reports clearly show that he's not ready to be released. When you look back at his disciplinary report, you know, typically a lot of times you'll see a lot of reports when they first go to prison, and then they slow down after a while and they don't get as many reports, and you can see that they're learning what they have to do and getting better at following the rules. Well, he hasn't done that. And when you look at his disciplinary reports, the very first disciplinary report he got was aggravated disobedience. And he's had aggravated disobedience or aggravated work offenses consistently throughout his incarceration. I think that shows he's clearly not ready to be released. He's done some programming that's pretty good. And I'm pretty impressed with the fact he's gotten his GED. He's gotten other certificates, collision repair, and a few other things, and I think that's going to help him in the long run. But I think at this time he's not ready, and I think he needs to show no disciplinary reports and complete the sex offender treatment before he's considered for parole. And I would note in the pre-parole investigation, it shows a strong victim opposition as well. Thank you.
Meyer. All right, Mr. Ray, is there anything you'd like to say to the board? Is there a statement you'd like to make?
I mean, the only thing I would like to say is that, you know, from the person that I was as a 16-year-old child, I've completely transformed into the person that I am today. And the things that I did then, the way that I thought, the way that my mind operated is completely different from who I am today. And I can't imagine myself doing something as terrible as that day ever again in my life. I wouldn't ever. I wouldn't even think about doing something like that again. And I mean, that's basically it.
All right. Start. We'll start with Ms. Jackson. Come on. Mr. Rie, you have come a long way. I can see that, you know, being 16 when this crime occurred, yeah, I guess it's a double-edged sword because, you were, in the eyes of the law, still a child and a juvenile, and yet your crime was, really big boy crime. And so you kind of have to balance those two things. But I see that you're making progress, but I don't think you're where you need to be yet. I am concerned about the disciplinary history. I am concerned that you've not taken any phases of sex offender treatment, which seems, and you know how that happens. And I think you need to take victim awareness, but I think you're on the right track. I really do. Continue to work hard, continue to go for an extended period of time with no write-ups, no disciplinary reports. We've had people in prison twice as long as you have, and then maybe have 1, 2, or 3 write-ups in that whole time, and you've had 39 as recently as 2017. So my vote today is going to deny you because of the strong victim opposition, for disciplinary record, and your need to complete sex offender treatment and victim awareness. So work on those things and apply again when you're eligible. Good luck to you.
Okay.
Ms. Watts?
Mr. Allen, it is a very egregious crime, but I'm hopeful for you. I really am hopeful for you, and with what you've come through to who you are today. So my vote is to grant conditional after you complete the victim awareness and the substance abuse victim awareness and sex offender treatment program, and then go to the Louisiana Parole Project. I'm just really, really hopeful for you. I just commend you on the work that you've done. That's my vote.
Maria, I too want to commend you on the, it seemed like you turned the corner. We talked about your not so good conduct record, but it seems as though you've tried to work on it, at least for the past 4 or 5 years. I'm inclined to also do a conditional grant, and that would be that you do complete the sex offender treatment. And you said you're enrolled in Thinking for Change, right?
Yes,
Now?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So, completion of that, the sex offender treatment, and then to the parole project. So you've gotten 2 favorable votes, and 1 not favorable. I think because of the crime, because of the nature of the sex offense, it requires a unanimous vote. So, take so the result of today is that your parole should have some encouragement. Take the program. Ward Millis will help you with that, I'm sure, to get you enrolled in that. Do them, sit on the front row, pay attention, reapply when you're eligible to do so, stay right up free. And I think next time you might have a different outcome.
Okay, thank you.
Don't hurt. Good luck to you.
Okay, thank you.
So let's unpack this. So we'll go over the appeal, which goes through some information, including some information where Miss Jackson got it a little bit wrong. She mixed up him with his co-defendant. So it was actually his 14-year-old cousin that initially carjacked the victim and took the victim to his house. And then that's when they decided to do it. So those are the only facts that were, I think, flip-flopped through the police report. And then we'll also go over the Angola roll book, or really just these across Louisiana for what 21 sex offense he might have received as the aggravated offense. But before we do that, and thank you, Sir Richard, for providing these links as always. It's pretty classic what we see here. What you hear the supporting, I think one of them might have been his girlfriend. I don't know. I've known him for 20 something years and he's a great guy. And then you hear Randy Meyer, who comes in, the good old, reliable, always there. And he lays down the facts, which are just like, holy cow. I mean, the guy has an aggravated sex offense, and aggravated work offenses, and it's It's just scary. I don't know what can possess a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old to do that to a woman. And it's not just they do that, but when they're done, they shoot her in the back. Like there's just something not wired right there. And the idea that he could actually be free, it just this is not a normal crime. If they were older, they might have gotten the death penalty. 14 and 16 years old. I know it is bizarre, and you think about those ages, it's scary. But of course, you have Carrie Myers. Oh, this is great. They're going to do great. And then you might say, okay, Miss Wise and Miss Renata, they said to grant by taking those programs. I like to think that both of them knew, that Miss Wise knew, that Miss Renata knew that he needed a unanimous vote, and they only granted to give him some type of hope. That's what I would like to think. I don't think they would have granted if they knew that he would get the vote. I just don't think so. Otherwise, I'd be pretty mad at Miss Wise right now and Miss Renata. And just think, imagine if you don't have Randy Meyer there. That's the critical why it's so important that he's there, and he's there always and consistently. And I think the beautiful thing about seeing him there is that if you ever hear arguments about, well, the DAs, they're overwhelmed, they don't have the resources, they can't show up to everything, you can always point to Randy Meyer as proof that it can be done. Now, on January 8th, 1998, the state filed a bill of indictment charging Allan R with aggravated and this and this and this. It was a long list of stuff, right? Now, he was arraigned on January 16th and pled not guilty. The defendant motion to suppress identification was denied after a hearing on August 31st, 2000 through counsel February 16, 2001. The defendant filed a motion to squash the indictment because it was defective due to the process of selecting the grand jury. Okay, so he's grasping at straws, right? And then on May 19, 2003, the state amended the charges on counts 1 and 2 of forcible assault and second-degree kidnapping, respectively, and entered a null pros to the charges in counts 3, 4, and 6. Mr. Ray then pled guilty to SA, forcible SA, second-degree kidnapping, and attempted armed robbery. On January 15, 2003, when Mr. Ray appeared for sentencing, he filed a pro se motion to withdraw his guilty plea on the grounds that his attorney pressured him to make the plea deal. So on a day of sentencing, he's like, no, I changed my mind. His motion, he was then sentenced. Okay. The court denied his motion. He was then sentenced in accordance with his plea bargain. And I wonder if this is a strategy to set up for an appeal. Like if his attorney actually says, okay, when you show up to sentencing, do this. Because it's hard to imagine that how that kind of happens otherwise, unless he's just like, I wonder if it's part of the strategy. But you might think that a judge would pick up on it if it becomes like a pattern, but I don't know. His motion, he was then sentenced in accordance with his plea bargain to serve 40 years at hard labor without the benefit of parole, probation, or suspension of sentence. As to count 1, 40 years at hard labor without benefit of count 2, 40. So they gave him all, but they're running it concurrently. And isn't he lucky for that? Now, the defendant's motion for an appeal was granted. Wait, what? The defendant's motion for an appeal was granted on July 16, 2003. The docket master indicates the motion for reconsideration of sentence was denied. The defendant, through counsel, filed a motion to correct an illegal sentence and dismiss indictments underlying the conviction and illegal sentence. After a hearing on August 28, 2003, the court denied the motion. So I don't know why it was illegal, but okay. The statement of facts. Because the defendant pleaded guilty, the facts are not set out in the record. However, the police report, this is what Miss Bonnie Jackson, the Honorable Judge Bonnie Jackson, was referring to, the police report. On August 9, 1997, the victim was carjacked in New Orleans by 14-year-old James Ria. So it's an understandable mistake. Why he didn't correct it, maybe he didn't hear it, maybe, I don't know. It's interesting. But who forced her into the trunk of her own car at gunpoint and drove to the home of his 16-year-old cousin, the man who we just saw. The two young men then drove to the levee on River Road in Jefferson Parish, where they assaulted the victim, sexually assaulted her, and shot her. It's just, how do you, at 14 and 16, how can you be so, I don't even have a word for it. It's like demonic, depraved. You just, how do you trust someone? You can't go, I was young and dumb. I was hanging out with her. Like, this is, there's nothing. I don't understand it. She managed to get help and was taken to the hospital. She told police that the men called each other James and Allan. James reported that Allan shot the victim. So James flipped on his older cousin. And that's, I guess. Can you even imagine? I just can't. How can you imagine that someone who has that in them, no matter how young they were when they did it? I can't get over something like that. So, they go through different, I don't know if this stuff's in, I'll put the link to this in the description. And thank you, Sir Richard, again. I wonder what, anyways, it's just appeal. So then this is the rule book. And so what you have here is the 21s are sex offenses. And then you have aggravated, which is Schedule B. Now, I'm guessing that this is B. So it would be abusive sexual content offender on offender context, such as, but not limited to, intentional, either directly or through clothing. No offender assault another offender by force or by threat. So to me, this seems like he's still doing SA, if I understand that correctly. And can you even imagine that? Now, even if it was like the last one was 2017, but it's like, hello. And I wonder if his support, the support signed off once I wonder if they heard that. But okay, let's jump into another Miss Bonnie Jackson hearing. And why this one is particularly interesting is that Bonnie Jackson, Judge Jackson, was actually the sentencing judge in this case all those years ago. There's also a surprise turn that happens in this hearing, one that catches everybody off guard, but it is a mic drop. Before we jump in, I do want to share a message with you. If you've been watching this channel long enough, you would know how seriously I take my privacy. So when I saw in the news that National Public Data announced that they suffered a major breach, potentially impacting every American, that really blew my mind. They say that over 2.9 billion records that are used for background checks. This includes personal information like full names, address, date of birth, phone numbers, and social security numbers, that it's been hacked, and confirmed that members of the hacker group released this information online for free for everyone to access. Why they would do this, who knows? But when they're caught, when we cover their parole hearing, I hope that it's a resounding deny. Now, anyways, if you haven't been taking your personal information online seriously, I think now is the time to change that. We are more vulnerable than ever before with today's landscape. And thankfully, I feel secure with Aura, the sponsor of today's video. I've been using Aura for nearly a year now. I get an email in my inbox every week. I click into it. I get all the information right there. It makes me sleep better at night. And on top of it, they offer a $5 million in identity theft insurance for worst case scenario. There's a side quality of life improvement as well that I personally love. And that is that Aura has nearly stopped all spam calls. I used to get 6, 7 a day. It stopped. That to me makes it worth it in itself. If you want to give it a 2-week trial, go to the link in the description below, aura.com/Mandu. Please keep in mind that there will not be a drop-down option in the YouTube box that says Mandu, but it still will attribute to me if you use that link. Anyways, let's go back to the hearing.
Before we get started this morning, Mr. Durander, I want to, Judge Bonnie Jackson, seated to my left, was the sentencing judge in your case. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you have any objection to her serving on your parole panel this morning?
No.
You ready to go ahead and proceed this morning?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Durand, you're classified as a second felony offender. You're currently serving a 40-year sentence for manslaughter. You were sentenced in January 2003. Your parole eligibility date was January 19th of this year. You have a good time date, which has been adjusted to April 19th, 2035. You have a full term date, January 19th, 2042. Is that information correct?
Correct. It's correct.
So, Mr. Durand, how old are you, sir?
60.
60?
60.
60. All right. I must have did my math wrong. I figured you were 62. How long have you been in jail? How long? How many years have you been in jail?
19.
19 years. And, sir, can you tell us why you're here? What happened? I know I said you're here for manslaughter, but why don't you tell us what happened?
I got off of work one day and my wife had called me. And she asked if I was going up to my in-laws. And I told her, yeah. Then I went over by my in-laws. And we started drinking over there. She met me over there. And basically, we got to arguing from there. About some drugs.
So you were arguing about drugs, you said? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah. And we went back home. We was arguing on the way home. We went back home and we got to arguing some more. So I didn't mean to, like you said, the reason was just to scare, not to hurt her. And I ended up hurting. Hurting.
You end
I
up
didn't
hurting.
want.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, sir.
I said I ended up hurting them by, by mistake. I didn't mean to.
So you killed your wife, you stabbed her, is that correct?
Yeah.
So as I review the record, there's an indication in the record that there is a history of domestic violence. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was only they bothered me. I didn't bother them. I didn't really bother them. They came and picked at me most of the time. I was trying to leave them alone.
And you and your wife didn't have any children together, is that correct?
That's correct.
But she did have children?
Yes. Yeah.
How old were those children when the crime happened?
One was 20, 18, 19 or 20. That's the baby.
Uh-huh.
The other one was 30-something, 20-something.
Her children were adults when she died?
Yeah, they were adults.
You have one child from this relationship, is that correct?
I actually have two.
Okay. Do you have contact with both of them or just your daughter?
I have contact with both of them.
Okay. But you plan to live one of your daughters, how many? You have a boy and a girl? Or two
Boy and a
girls?
girl, boy
Okay,
and a girl,
you plan to live with your daughter in Baton Rouge?
yes.
This was, I said that you had taken some faith-based programs, but you have taken substances, correct?
I took substance abuse.
Did you take substance abuse treatment?
Yes, I took it.
Okay, because all I saw was living in balance and anger management. I didn't see any substance treatment.
I took it.
Living in Balance is the substance abuse program.
But not, okay. And you took that twice, correct?
Correct, correct,
And you took anger management, correct?
correct.
How long, do you remember how long ago it was that you took anger management?
2000,
Long time ago?
yes, it's been a while.
Did you ever take victim awareness? You know what that
And
is?
reentry,
You took that in reentry?
reentry,
Okay.
there's that part, yeah.
Okay. Are you able to work, Mr. Garender? Are you able to maintain a job on the outside?
It has to be a part-time job, if
Why?
I'm able, because I'm disabled.
Okay.
I got,
So how are you able to work behind the kitchen?
that's the duty status, my duty, kind of duty status I got, allow me to work behind the kitchen.
Okay, but what do you physically do? What's your physical job?
Just squat nine,
And you can do that?
yeah.
Because I can't do that. So what would prevent you from being able to work on the outside?
Well, I guess I could work on the other side.
Well, I mean outside of prison. What would, if you got out of prison, what would prevent you from being able to hold down a job? What I'm trying to find out.
I have a back injury from the military
Uh-huh.
back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And I got granted payments. And that's what I get.
Did you have surgery on your back?
No, not yet.
Well,
Not
I
yet.
mean, you haven't had it now. I mean, you didn't have it when you got the injury in the military?
Oh, I
Didn't
got
surgery?
treatment. I got treatment, but it wasn't surgery. Because my back was isolated.
Okay, and that prevented you from working?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Darren. I appreciate your answers.
All right, at this time, we'd like to hear the victim's family. If we can start off with Ms. Bell.
Should have left that thing alone. The picture.
How y'all doing?
Good morning. Good. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
my brother is the one that's gonna speak.
Mr. Ricky?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Taplin.
How y'all doing today? I just want to say that the same injury he got now and his head in the 70s, he had it when he took my sister's life. He had no right to take her life. we as a family have gets together every Saturday and we eat together. And that's one we missed. And it was 13 of us, only 4 of us left. I don't feel like he had the right. I don't feel like he needs to get out of there. Because he with most of the problems he had before he killed my sister. You know what I'm saying? And man, we really missed our sister because we close family. And only God had the right to take people's lives like that. And I just don't feel like it's right that he get out. He should stay in there and do his time. Cause he just really took somebody away from us. I mean, I love him. I love my sister. We as family, we stick together. Just every weekend we eat together. We enjoy each other. Because you never know when the next one leaves you. And he really took me. I mean, he took her away from us. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Captain. Thank you, sir. And we have,
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Okay, I don't think he ought to get out either. He took our sister life. He left her in there for 7 hours. He left, went all the way to New Roads. And then years later, I see his cousin. His cousin said, "I'm so sorry about your sister." Eddie tried to get me to lie for him. You know, I don't think he ought to get out. We do miss our sister. We are a close family. And we always getting together, eating, just enjoying each other's company. And what else you want to say, Diana? Nothing here. And I don't like the fact that he lies about everything. He's not a truthful man. He lies. He tried to sue my auntie because he jumped off the apartment and hurt his leg. It's just so much about him. And I tried to get my sister to leave, but she didn't. So, yeah, I said that. Mm-hmm. But that's all I have to say. I just think he ought to do his 40. I don't think he ought to get out.
Yes, because we feel if he do get out, he can hug his family. He can talk to his family. He can call his family, but we can't call my aunt. And also my mom used to let my aunt and him watch me, and she trusted him. And as a child, I tried to think back as far as I can, but I can only remember the age of 5. He molested me. And he took advantage of me when my aunt wasn't there, and she trusted him also. And for years, it traumatized me. And I always wanted to write him a letter. And I wanted to ask him why. Because I was so young and I was so innocent. And I never wanted, I started having kids. I'm 34 now. I never wanted a daughter. And now that I have a daughter, I don't want her around nobody. Because he pretended to be so nice. But behind closed doors, he did these things. And I remember one time my aunt, she said, "Ride to the store with your uncle." And I said, "I don't want to ride. I don't want to ride." Because I was so scared to tell her. Because he would always tell me these things that it would happen if I tell him. And I said, "I don't want to ride." And she said, "Ride with your uncle. That's your favorite uncle." She had no idea. So when I would ride with him, he would make me perform oral sex on him. And at that time, they was living off of Harrison Street, and I was 7. And I remember my mom asking me, she said, I don't know, she must have had a feeling. She asked me one time in the car, she said, "That's only your uncle by marriage." She said, "If anything
If he ever touched you, just tell me. And I said, okay. And I tried to tell the truth at one point in time to my aunt, but it didn't go well because she had him right there and everybody was screaming and hollering at one time. And I was young. So he was hollering, tell her it's not true. So I just said that I lied, but I wasn't lying. So I finally told my mom years later. So we was happy that he was put away. But now when we found out that he was coming up for parole, I had to say something because it's a sensitive subject and nobody else in my family knew but me and my mom. But I have to say something because I don't think he deserved to be out of jail, because if that's what you like, just putting it out there, little girls, that's what you always like. You get out, you might hurt somebody else. Your daughter may have a daughter. And that's what I want to say.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson, and all who have spoken today. Your participation is really important to the process. Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Derringer. Let's see. Is there a statement you'd like to make to the panel before we vote? Mr. Eddie?
Yes.
Is there a statement you'd like to say to the panel before we vote?
I am truly sorry for the actions that they say that I did, and some of it I did not do, but I'm okay, Thank you for having me here.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dander, I think we're prepared to vote, and I'll be voting first. And I don't know that that I mentioned to you the law enforcement opposition that was expressed in the record. Mr. Durander, this is your first opportunity at parole. I believe you're enrolled in anger management now, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to vote to deny your parole today. I'd like to see you complete the anger management. I'd also like to see you complete a victim awareness class. I know you said you took that in pre-release, but there's a separate class specifically for victim awareness. I think you could benefit from that. And based on the need for additional programming, the opposition that's been expressed here today and in the record, my vote today is to deny your parole with the encouragement that once you complete those programs, at least from my perspective, I'd like you to reapply for another parole hearing. That's my vote. Ms. Jackson?
All right, Mr. Derringer, my vote today likewise would be to deny, but in light of what your niece has disclosed to the board, even though you have not been convicted of this offense, I really think it's important for you to take the sex offender treatment program. And I'm going to make that a recommendation to the institution that you be enrolled in the sex offender treatment program. But my vote today is to deny because of victim opposition and because you need additional programming. Get in those programs and then reapply when eligible.
Mr. Eddie, I concur with my colleagues. My vote is to deny for the reasons already stated. I joined with my colleague in the sex offender treatment class. I mean, there was a aggravated sex offense that you write up you got in 2010. Indication there was something non-sensual going on. So that's concerning. It's very concerning. Best wishes to you, sir. Just continue to take the program that we suggest, and as it's been stated, reapply when you're eligible. And I'm just appreciative to everyone who participated in the process. Thank you.
Mr. Sander, your parole's been denied. Got some work to do. Reapply when you're eligible. Good luck to you, sir.
And what a mic drop by the survivor coming. I bet he was not expecting that. Can you imagine? He's sitting there hoping to get parole, and she comes back and she lays down a mic drop of epic proportions. I am so proud of her. And you realize she did that. She did that, like she had said. She said, when we found out that he was coming up for parole, I had to say something. I had to say something. Because if that's what you like, little girls, and that's what you'll always like. And because your daughter might have a daughter, I can't sit here and be silent. She's protecting his own granddaughter from himself. That is something else, and it's powerful. And the idea, I mean, she said it so powerfully, so gracefully. And we can only imagine what it had done, the time waiting for the parole hearing and thinking if you're going to do it, and the feelings it will bring up, the emotions. It's unimaginable, but man, she hit it out of the park. Grand slam, home run, touchdown, whatever you want to say. She should be proud of herself. Why Miss Renazzo would then encourage him to reapply when you're ready is just nauseating. But, it's like, come on, have some in tuneness. Maybe don't reapply. Maybe serve out your full time until, 2042 full term date. Now, this hearing did take place in 2022, April 2022. So we might see him in the next year or so. It might be another 2 years before we see him. But I hope we don't. And it's, there's no appeals on this. There's nothing in there. But can and you find out that, so he stabs his wife to death, blames it on her, of course, says that all the DV in their history was her. Oh, everything against him. He's just the innocent guy. And he's not talkative. He's not speaking. You don't really, it's like, what's going on? I don't know if it's because he's hopped up on stuff or if it's part of his manipulation. Who knows? But, and then his final words, I'm truly sorry. I'm truly sorry for the actions that they say that I did. Some of it I did not do, but I'm okay. No, yeah, buddy. Okay. You're okay. You're in prison, bro. You're locked up. Yeah, you're okay. You are okay. You're right. You can be in there for the rest of your life. You can be okay. He's 63 years old today, so he was accurate about his date. And that hopefully it just goes. He's just okay. He'll be fine. He can finish out the rest of his days in incarceration. And there you have it. There's nothing else that I can add on this case. I do like that some of you might be watching and say, well, he's not convicted for that crime. How can you well, they can't. They didn't say he has to take programs. They recommended it. And they are taking it for face value. There are other parole boards that might be, like Iowa, or Iowa would have just paroled him. It would have been a great interview. You serve time. What else more can you do? But just forget Iowa. Screw Iowa. If you want to see Iowa parole hearings, it's on my second channel, Mandu 2. It's in the playlist. I don't recommend you watch them. They're going to make you throw bricks through your TV. But if you're upset about seeing parole hearings where no one gets paroled, in Iowa, everyone gets paroled. So if you want to see what the flip side looks like, you can watch those. But again, I do warn you. And it's just powerful. It's powerful to see a survivor stand up, not for herself, but for others. And we have seen it before. We have seen this is a pattern with survivors. We have seen it where they finally, either they will testify against their abuser when they realize the abuser might go somewhere else, or they stand up and broadcast their voice to protect others. And it's a powerful thing. And with that, I'll let you go.
I had to say something because it's a sensitive subject and nobody else in my family knew but me and my mom. But I have to say something because I don't think he deserved to be out of jail, because if that's what you like, just putting it out there, little girls, that's what you always like. You get out, you might hurt somebody else. Your daughter may have a daughter. And that's what I want to say.
You wouldn't even, the person that's sitting before you, you wouldn't even think that he would have committed such a crime due to his behavior in the way that he acts now is the man that he is.
2017, he had 4 aggravated work offenses. He had an aggravated disobedience, and he had an aggravated sex offense.